Welcome to BS Session 125. Shooter ready. Stand by. Forget everything you just went over. Beep!
Because I have a shotgun and rifle that I use for, and 22 gauge that I use for ptarmigan, moose, and black bear.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
You're listening to your weekly dose of BS, Ballistically Speaking. The Ballistically Speaking Podcast.
I just gotta bring this up right off the bat. We had Alberta GunTube chime in. Looking forward to this. Just finished a black badge course with Ken. It doesn't show here, but he commented this at 2:34 a.m. I'm not sure what Alberta GunTube is doing at 2:34 a.m., but I appreciate his dedication to commenting on this video.
When you go live, you go live. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm. So we have Ken of P3 Shooting Specialties here with us today. Ken, why don't you introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, and how you got started in this?
Okay, well, my name is Ken Hum. I've been shooting IPSC for probably since the early 80s. I'm one of the first few people that have ever taken the black badge course. And my black badge number is actually 005.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I've been around for the ride for a long time. I took a few years off for family stuff. And all of a sudden, I had a friend. She wanted to start shooting. She turned around at me at the range and turned to me and said, there has to be something more fun than this. The next week, we had her sign up for her black badge course. And we drove down to one of my mentors' courses out in Tabor, Alberta. So after that, I've been back. Competition isn't the priority now. It's more of bringing the sport into the light so that we could get as many members as we can. And, to keep the sport going, especially with everything happening with the government.
Yeah.
I started P3 about 6 years ago, and it started out just to save myself money to pay for some of my travels because we go some places every weekend. And then I decided to use my contacts to help the competitors because I know where to buy stuff at bulk instead of them going into a store and asking to buy 10,000 primers, and they'll look at you thinking you're trying to start a war.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things,
third world country.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things is we did P3 for that reason. A lot of people ask, what does P3 stand for? Well, P3 stands for primers, projectiles, and powder. The three main components of reloading. I just thought it'd be something different. I don't need a gun name. I didn't need anything else. We just had fun with it. And ever since, we have been doing our best to keep everybody shooting as cheap as possible. And it's been working.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good intro. We're going to get into our ad reads here. Mike, why don't you kick us off?
I guess I'll start us off. Tonight, we are brought to you by Callsign 66, Canada's best rifle training. Welcome to the Brotherhood. Book a course now at callsign66.ca and follow them on Instagram at callsign66, all one word, and on Facebook at C/S66.
We're also brought to you by Ribstone Gunsmithing, craftsmanship done right. Contact Oscar at ribstonegunsmithing.ca and breathe life back into any firearm. Oscar also has a new book out titled Rust Bluing in the 21st Century. Find it on Amazon.
And we have March Scopes Canada. The Dion Optical Design line of rifle scopes has a scope for all your hunting and shooting needs. Find Doug and Niza at marchscopes.ca.
Apex Optics. When you buy Apex, precision comes standard. Check out all the fine competition rifle scopes, red dots, and binoculars at apexoptics.co. And just a quick note, Apex is tariff-proof. Canadian and international orders ship direct from their Calgary warehouse, and American orders ship from the great state of Texas. No tariffs, no hassle. And also, get yourself signed up for the Apex Rocky Mountain Challenge precision rifle match coming up this summer.
And we also have our friends over at EM Precision Rifles in Vegreville, Alberta. Building Canada's finest precision rifles. Find Shane and Steve on Facebook, Instagram, and on their website at emprifles.ca.
We're also brought to you by Bolt Action Coffee, bringing specialty coffee to the precision shooting world. Order coffee and merchandise at boltactioncoffee.com.
And we also have Odell Engineering. Pick up a Canuck shotgun, Brigade rifle, and Apex ammunition from your local distributor and tell them Phil sent you. Look them up on Instagram, Facebook, and on their website at odellengineeringlimited.com. Stay tuned. We're going to have some upcoming content with the Canuck Wrangler. You're definitely going to want to check that out.
It is very nice. And last but not least, Sterling Arms International, home of the R18 Mark III and the R9. Contact them at sterlingards.com and look out for the R9 arriving at a store near you. Act now as they're going fast.
All right, bills paid. So, Ken, we have you on today because we need to talk about IPSC, and this is a topic that I know enough to say I don't know what I'm talking about, and hopefully you can clear up some of those thoughts that I have.
Yeah.
So let's just get right in. What is IPSC? Let's start off at the ground level.
Okay, well, IPSC is an acronym for the International Practical Shooters Confederation. This is a worldwide body that controls 108 countries. And each country has a minimum of about 5,000 plus competitors. Canada alone, we have just over 5,000. And we shoot all aspects from handgun to rifle to shotgun. You know, there's a lot of different disciplines. Currently, the most common is pistol. We were shooting mini rifle and PCC up to December 4th, which we know what happened there. So I got 3 dogs here that are barking all of a sudden.
No worries.
But yeah, so, you know, it's basically a dynamic sport where we run around shooting at targets. We are challenged by moving targets, by ports, by walls, by, you know, anything that match directors can design. We're starting to use pneumatic targets now, where the targets will do figure eights. So technology has made it a little more challenging for the top shooters and almost impossible for the new guys. But at the end of it, everybody's got a big smile on their face. It's a nice brotherhood. Like in Alberta, if you shoot your first match, everybody that's shooting with you basically encourages you to make it past the day. The friends you make is amazing. You'll make people that you'll know over a lifetime. I know guys that I know that are shooting still, and some that aren't, for over 30 years. And, you know, because we all like-minded and we all, you know, seem to have, you know, congregate together because of that reason. We used to only on average have about 1 match every 2 months. But since COVID hit, I don't know, maybe it's just us, you know, saying, no, we're not going to listen to you guys. We began having matches pretty much every month. And now we're at the point we're going to be going to 2 matches a month, where we'll do like the north-south thing. But overall, IPSC has, if I remember correctly, IPSC became an observation sport for the Olympics in 2021 for 2 years. And then we were able to renew it for another 2 years. So in 2024 was our last year for that. So now they're looking into the sport to see if it's, you know, that we could get it into the Olympics. One of the good things is if we manage to do this, we opened the door for all our people again to start buying pistols.
Yes.
So there is a lot of work behind the scenes that we're working on, that we're jumping through the hoops and doing our best.
I would honestly, I would love to see IPSC in the Olympics, because no offense to the other shooting sports, but they're a tad dry to watch.
Quite boring.
The trap, you can get a little bit interesting, but some of the air rifle and stuff, like it's extremely skillful to do that. I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying as a viewer, it's hard to watch. Yeah.
One of the biggest requirements of the Olympics is how good of it is it as a spectator sport. Mm-hmm. A prime example is when Calgary had their freestyle skiing. Ski jumping, freestyle jumping was really good. Moguls, of course, was good. Ballet sucked. And afterwards, if you notice, they dropped ballet because of that reason. And, and they want a spectator sport that requires skill. And that's why we've been pushing it. Under the Alberta Federation of Shooting Sports, we were working with the handgun people and the CFO to see what we could do about getting into it as cross-training. So we're working on little things. And like I said, our glorious leader, CFO, Terry Bryant, is amazing with us. Mm-hmm. And she works really hard with us on these type of issues.
Terry is great for all. It's good to have a public servant that actually cares about the public they're serving. Yes, I know that shouldn't be controversial, but apparently it is.
Yeah. You'll see her at every gun show. For the previous ones, when it was federally run, they never showed up once. Mm-hmm. So
no. It's good to see. So if I was going to get into IPSC, like say I had handguns already, what would I need to start? Like
okay.
I'm interested. I know nothing. Where do I go?
Okay. The best thing we found as an instructor myself is I prefer to have a newbie, complete newbie, because they don't have the bad habits. They don't have anything that we have to break down to build back up. You could basically use any handgun in the sport, because we have various divisions that will allow them to compete with like-minded firearms. So there's no $10,000 race gun going against a revolver. We used to have that back in the old days, where you either shot open or not. Mm-hmm. There was no other choice in between. Now we have multiple choices. We got guys that are buying production guns like the Alien that are $2,000 pistols that were designed for that division and stuff. But to get started, all you need is your pistol. You need minimum 4 magazines, a sturdy belt, a nice holster. Any kind of holster is allowed, except any kind of like a Serpa where it has a device on the trigger, because we want nothing touching the trigger on the draw, because as we all know, that's the danger time. And just have the mags and mag pouches. The next thing is to approach a black badge instructor. We have classes all over Canada, and we will publicize them on our section. Alberta will have their own, BC will have their own, Ontario has their own. So the best way to find that out is just type black badge and the province you're in, because you can't go cross province. If you're from BC and we have a good instructor in Alberta, you need special permission to take the course with us.
Okay. Yeah. Good to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is something we kind of, our training is all the same throughout, but there is no set way of training. You get certain places that will spend the first night, Friday night, just sitting there watching a presentation. And the next 2 days they'll just shoot. Whereas me, I'll do a 2-day course on Saturday, Sunday, and we'll be doing some briefing. We will do some coursework, technical and theory, and then we'll do shooting. But it'll be a mix of everything throughout the day, so you don't get bored. And in my last class, I actually had someone that has owned his pistols for like 5 years, and he put 200 rounds through it up to that point. And he was very nervous when he came to us, and he was very honest about it. I had one of my co-instructors help me take him under his wing. Before lunch, we already put 300 rounds downrange for him. And the confidence level changed completely. One of the biggest things is back in the day, there was no in-between between IPSC and the time you bought your gun. There was no actual training. And we were going to try to devise a training method in between for people for the basic fundamentals. And I never got to that point because as soon as I got into black badge training, that was my focus. But when you bought your pistol to the time you take a black badge, there's no other courses that you could take. You go to range, and the range officials or someone showing up next to you is your advice right there. So you never got any official training.
Yep. You got Joe Blow in the lane beside you, who may or may not know what he's talking about.
Yes.
So,
in the gun community, no, everyone knows everything.
I saw a video one time, a YouTube video that showed the 8 types of people that go to the range. And I looked at that and go, yep, I've seen them all.
Unfortunately, I have too seen that video and seen everything in that video. Yeah. So a while back, you mentioned a sturdy belt. Now, what exactly is a sturdy belt? Because my understanding is belts are fairly flexible.
Yeah, the belts we get are sturdy. Let me show you an example one. This is a sturdy belt. It doesn't twist. If you notice, I've tried to twist it. It doesn't. What that does is they're like a multiple layer belt and all pushed together so that they don't bend. We don't want your gun moving when you draw from the holster. We don't want the holster to move. These belts, under the IPSC rules in the past, we used to have it go through at least 2 belt loops on your pants. So what we do now is we found a workaround, which works, is we have a Velcro inner liner, and then the belt attaches to the Velcro. And it doesn't move once it's in place. It makes going to the bathroom real tough, but it does hold through.
Sacrifices have to be made.
Yeah.
Yes.
And to that, like for holsters, is there other than Serpa, is there anything you'd recommend or stay away from or?
Okay, well, holster wise, you can spend as little as $75 or as high as $400. As with the holster I have here, this is a Safariland holster that came out in 2020, and there's probably only 6 of them in the country because once COVID hit, they stopped manufacturing them. They're one of the best holsters I've found. There is a double tap holster or a double alpha holsters that are very similar, but for most people, I just tell them, go find yourself a Blade Tech holster. You don't need just a standard Kydex holster works fine. It's not like back in the old days where we had to do jumping and rules to make sure our guns stay in our holster. Nowadays, we don't follow that rules. And, now they're just gravity held.
So you were jumping on the course of fire, or you were jumping to prove your holster was retentioning?
We used to have to do rolls and jumping prior to the match to show that our holsters were compliant. Nowadays, you'll be doing jumping. We've had stages that we jump barrels, these big blue 50-gallon drums, and we'd be jumping over them. So, it all depends on how you want to draw your gun, when you want to draw your gun. I always recommend to the newer shooters to just place their hand on their gun while they have to run or jump or anything, or draw it prior. It's the easiest way to do things. I've had guns fall out of holsters when they're just walking from stage to stage. And then when that happens, we have to get a range official out there to look at, to make sure it's cleared and everything and, safe. because that's one of the biggest things about IPSC is priority safety. We don't lapse on that whatsoever.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
So break down black badge. What is the objective of a black badge course? And if you're to split it into different parts, what do those parts look like?
Okay, as I said before, part one, safety. We want to make sure the person is very comfortable with their firearm and very comfortable how to keep it safe while it's in a holster. We use, or not we, but a lot of ranges use our black badge certification as a holster course for them. Because if they've done that course, you've drawn 100 times with your holster in 2 days. That's the biggest thing. Then we start other things like working on people's grips, working on their stance, working on their accuracy. So that's the first probably 2 hours of the course, is to get you used to your stance, grip, everything. To bring a target at 10 yards, you'll see a guy within the first 2 hours have a group of about roughly, say, 6 inches, bring it, tighten it up to 3 inches in less than 2 hours. And that's shooting fast. And then we start bringing in the holster draw. There's a specific way we teach a holster draw. There's a five position draw that we use. Whereas position 1, you would grip the gun. Position 2, you would draw it out of the holster, so you break the leather. Position 3 would be you bring it to your chest. And then 3 to 4 is extend out. That's where you acquire your sight picture. And position 5 is when you pull the trigger. And we emphasize that because there is other times you'll use different parts of it. So when I start explaining to someone how to do a reload, I explain to them, you have to do it in position 3, start it from here, and then we work it from there. So, that's drawing. Then we will get into things like teaching them how to do a reload, how effective to do a reload. Do it when you need to, not when you have to. That's the biggest thing. Compared to like 3-gun or IDPA, you basically run your gun dry. And we try not to do that. We get into the mindset of, if I take more than a step, I could do a reload. In Canada, we are forced to do reloads because of a 10-round magazine capacity. When I go to the States, my same pistol holds 33 rounds.
Ooh.
And you ever get the biggest and funniest laugh you ever see when you do it a stage that requires only 24 shots, and I drop my mag after 8 because it's in our mind.
Yeah.
And then after you finish it, the guy goes, "That's an amazing reload, and you're Canadian, aren't you?"
Yes.
We take a
How
step
do you know?
mags. So, it's basic stuff. And then the next things we will teach them is movement. How to move with your firearm, how to do it safely, how to go, left or right, up range, down range. We teach everything. We will teach you how to do an unloaded start where the gun is on a barrel. We will teach you how to shoot a port and the effective way to shoot through a port, and also barricades. So there, we cover a lot of different things. We will also on day 2, we'll do prone and kneeling. So stuff like that, you don't use a lot of it, but in the time, we, depending on how much time and how many people we have in the class, we might get it more advanced so they get their money's worth.
Yeah.
Yep.
And those are still tools in the toolbox to use.
Yes.
If ever had to, well, I know how to shoot prone with the pistol. So
yeah. The hardest part as an experienced instructor and with my helpers is I keep telling them, dumb it down. We have to teach basics. And if they are ready for it, then we'll give them a little more advanced. And then it's up to them to, speed it up and everything. One of my models is basically speed is a byproduct of accuracy. Lot of people will try to start out and try to shoot fast. And they find out that they basically blow up real fast. Take your time, and then over time, you will get faster. and work with that, and you'll see how much better you get.
Yeah, that's like I tell new shooters, make hits, not time.
Yes.
Yeah. Because the time
I
you
also
can work
tell them
on
don't
after.
do what I do. I like the philosophy of go fast, don't suck.
Oh yeah. But that's the hard part. Don't suck.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah. The first part is easy.
Yeah. And I see people all the time do that. Anybody out of my black badge classes, if they get into an IPSC match, I always tell them to squad with me or my other instructor, so that when we do it, we're there basically to help them through the course, help them through shooting everything, so they're more relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
The worst thing you want to do is show up to a match and not know nobody in your squad. And then you get nervous and you don't want to admit that you're new.
Yeah, that first match jitters
Yes.
is a real thing. I recall the first match, one of the first matches of the season last year, when the competitors, it's first stage of the day, and PRS, he had a chamber flag in the rifle, forgot to take it out at the beginning of the stage. There he is trying to close the bolt on the chamber flag, and he's like, "Why is it not going?"
Yeah.
So.
We all do that type of stuff. We all have the brain farts. Like you did in the intro, how you forget everything. Well, we joke about it is the timer that our officials carry are basically the neuralizers in Men in Black.
Yeah.
As soon as it goes beep, everything is forgotten.
Yeah.
So.
I think that's universal, because every time I hear that beeps, what am I doing? Why am I here again? Where is the target?
Yeah.
What do you think for people that take their black badge course? What do you think is the kind of biggest eye opener to new shooters about like dynamic pistol shooting or pistol shooting in general? What is the thing that you look at the class and all of a sudden you see their eyes click or their head kind of do this and they kind of figure something out in their head? What is that moment? For a lot of shooters.
A lot of times is when they notice their accuracy has gotten that much better. We will see that within probably the first hour. We will also see at the same time, a lot of them find that standing still and shooting is very boring. Once they start moving around, they find that, they're having more fun. And like I said, the biggest thing I see is the big smiles on their faces when when they're having fun. And then when I go, you guys want to take a break, or you guys want to, whatever, they'll always say no.
Yeah, you want to go for a little bit of early lunch? Nah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You okay there, Mike?
Sorry, I'm like, I got something in my throat today at work. It was a dust or a bug or something, but I just keep trying to hack a lung up. I apologize. So what kind of round count is someone looking at if they're going to take a black badge course?
On average, minimum about 400 rounds. I usually tell everybody bring about 500 or even more, because there will be times that they could do a little more shooting. We will always give everybody a chance that if they're not comfortable with something, to work on it a few more times until they're comfortable. We will not usually progress to the next level until everybody is, knows what they're expected, and what the gun handling has become more second nature to them.
Now, black badge is there like a test at the end where it's like, okay, you got to do this, or is it just kind of a progressive thing that the instructor has observed competency?
It's a mix of both. You're supposed to have a 3-hour open book exam that you must complete, a 50-question exam prior to the course. What that does is it allows you to go through the rule book to understand where certain things are in the rules. Other than that, it's not used for anything else. Throughout the day, we have a checklist that I follow for every student. It shows, certain technical things that they have to do and everything. And then at the end of, after lunch, usually on the second day, we do a mini match, which is basically a level 1 IPSC match that will have a round count of maybe 60 rounds, 5 stages. And that will be the test of everything involved. And that's basically their final exam.
Mm-hmm.
And I will, we follow them. My helpers are usually range officers also. So we have eagle eyes. We watch everything. But we tell them to take their time.
Yeah.
I want them to pass the course. And there's no rush in it. And that's the biggest thing, I want you guys to pass. Success rate in my classes have been 100%. But there was one iffy one, but he made it through. So.
Now, Black Badge, is it a body separate from IPSC, or is it part of IPSC, or the Black Badge itself, is it kind of a universal thing across the board?
Okay, with Black Badge training, it was initially started by the 7 founders in Canada, and for more than 2 reasons. What it is it was basically to show the government we had a little more training, so that we could be running around the ranges, and stuff like that. Black Badge training is also Canada only. Every other country in the world, no one, as far as I know, uses Black Badge. The Americans don't do it, nothing like that. It basically is, if you think you're proficient enough in a club, you could go and shoot an IPSC match. US can come to Canada under the IPSC banner and shoot in Canada because they're members in good standing type of thing. We do the same. We reciprocate by going there too. And they count everything too. But to have our scores and their classifications counted, you have to be a member of the USPSA, where they track your statistics and everything. But if I wanted to go shoot in the States as a non-member, I can also. Yeah, but it's only Canada-wide.
Okay, so is it a uniquely Canadian thing? Is it a part of IPSC Canada, or is it all kind of its own separate entity?
It is part of IPSC Canada.
Okay.
All the instructors are under the umbrella of the National Range Officer Institute of Canada, our basically training officer. So everything we do, they still authorize everything. They send us updates on the exams, which they will be doing soon, and all the other course material that we use. So they do track all the students and everything.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Do you see the Black Badge? I from as an outsider, I see. I want to go do this shooting sport. I have to do this course, and it's a bunch of extra work. I don't want to do that. Is it really that big of a barrier to entry for some people to get into IPSC, or?
Basically, if you don't have a Black Badge, you can't shoot IPSC. It's a requirement. You're supposed to stay current. You're supposed to shoot 1 sanctioned match a year. And if you pass 3 years, then you're supposed to take the course all over again. They take it quite seriously. In the 40 years that IPSC has been in Canada, we've only had 1 death from a firearm. And that was from an experienced shooter that basically, hit something and he tried to grab his gun. And one of the things we teach in Black Badge course is if something happens, drop your gun. It's better to be disqualified and be able to go home than not go home ever again. And we are quite serious about that. But like I said, the Black Badge course is required in Canada specifically. The biggest thing we do about that is we want to make sure everybody's safe.
Yeah, I can't understand that, but on the other side of me, as someone who likes to see the shooting sports grow, I can kind of see that as some people may not like that as much.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. We've run into that with the 3-gunners, the ones that want to take Black Badge. I know a lot of them that transitioned from 3-gun to IPSC. As you know, Taylor Wright, Corey Lorison, we had a lot of guys that are top 3-gunners that came to IPSC because they wanted more of a challenge. And they're in the top of the game. They're in the top 2% of our competitors. A lot of times, yeah, people look at the cost of it and everything. But we're looking basically after them for them to make sure they're safe. A lot of the three gunners that did switch over, a couple of them, they would disqualify their first few matches because they would go back to the three gun methods.
Mm-hmm.
And after they calmed down and started using the training that they had, they've been some of our best competitors.
I am all for training, but at the same time, it's one of them weird things that I have. Is just a personal opinion. Like I understand the safety part, and training is always good, but if you want to get more people, barrier to entry has to be lower. Like there's IPSC seems to be the happy medium, but it's just a weird philosophical conversation I have with myself.
One of the biggest things that I have found that I get a lot of people bring up is when they become IPSC trained, they all of a sudden turn around and meet the group, meet the people, and start shooting with them. And they used to think, oh my gosh, IPSC, we heard so many rumors about you guys being so stuck up, so snobbish, so everything. But they find that as soon as they come out to the match, they are embraced by the community. And the only reason they think that I see that we're so stuck up is because we're pretty, diligent about our rules. Because the rules are there for a reason. Yeah. Our rule book, a prime example is right here, is basically all little fine print and everything.
Oh,
yeah,
that's a lot of fine print.
Yeah, and there's
Bible density.
Yeah, and there's lots of information on there. I bet you even those ROs and CROs haven't read the whole book through. We look at the focus on how to make the match. We look at the focus on disqualifications and safety and everything else. We emphasize that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, we used to have one range officer. Now we have a minimum of 3 on the stage watching. So we got 2 range officers that will run the stage, and then we got a chief range officer that sits back and watches everything, spectators and everything else.
Mm.
So, it's like I said, it all comes back down to safety.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What are the divisions of IPSC when it comes to like broad categories? So PCC, handgun, etc.
Okay. PCC and mini rifle are complete different divisions. They're not mixed in with handgun. Currently with handgun, we have, if I'm correct, 6 divisions. We have revolver, which anybody with a 6-shot revolver can participate in even. We have classic, which is basically a 1911 with very minimal modifications, but they also have to fit into an IPSC box that we have that are specific measurements so that every gun is the same profile.
Mm-hmm.
We have a standard, which is basically classic with newer firearms like the 2011s out there, and you could add a little more parts on it. Okay, those 3, the 1911, 2011 are not the biggest divisions, but they are still quite common. Our biggest divisions are production and production optics. They don't have to fit in a box, but at the same time, they have to follow certain rules. We have a list of guns that will fall into the production divisions and production optics divisions. You are allowed to make certain modifications. You are allowed to change your trigger up, anything in your trigger group that from the trigger to the firing pin to make it smoother and stuff, but everything else is more limited. Mm-hmm. Then you get into where the big boys play in open class, which is basically like car racing is F1 racing.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything is allowed. Sky's the limit. My open gun, which I had built by Joshko at Double Tap, was $8,000 just for the basic gun.
Mm.
I know people that are running $25,000, $30,000 guns.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, yeah, and they have two of them because most of us will have a backup.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you got to have a backup.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you got to have a backup.
So other than that, every division, then we have age divisions, which will go from juniors to regular to senior, super senior, and grand senior now. We will also have lady divisions.
Mm.
And then in each classification, division will have a classification. You will start from unclassified, and then from D class to C class to B, A, master, and then grandmaster. So you're competing against people of your skill level, not the people, overall.
Mm.
But it's also nice to see how you go against these grandmasters, how good you are actually compared to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being able to track your progress is nice.
Oh, yeah. When I was came out of retirement, I actually looked on the IPSC Canada website, and I still have my national rankings listed on there. And that was after being gone for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So let's go into IPSC stage design. If you were to categorize the different tests, like the requirements of the shooter in an IPSC stage, what are those, and what are some examples of a typical stage, and what is example of a difficult stage?
Okay. Well, most of the stages are designed by 3 levels, basically short level, which is usually like 8-10 rounds, medium course of fire, that could be anywhere between 20 to 24, somewhere in there, and then a long course of fire, which will be 32 rounds. So that's a lot of shooting.
Yeah,
and
that's
most
a few
matches
mag
will,
loads.
most matches will have 2 of each.
Okay.
So some of them are designed for speed shooting, just to draw and shoot the targets real quick, and they could end as quick as 3 seconds. The 32 round ones, top grandmaster could finish it in probably 14, 15 seconds, whereas an average shooter will take 30 plus. So, it depends on most. Depends on what the range has for equipment. We can have, most of it will be paper targets, and some of them will be a lot of no shoots, which are basically the targets that you're not allowed to shoot, which you'll be penalized if you hit them. There'll be steel targets, and we love steel targets. Everybody loves shooting steel. You hear the
That
ping.
ding is.
It's very addictive.
Mm-hmm.
We will have targets that will swing, that will stay stationary, but then once you hit a steel popper, it activates it, and it will start swinging left and right on you, depending on how fast they set it and everything. We have targets that will, as soon as you hit the actuator, they will pop up on you. And then the no shoot will pop up in front of it, so you only have a split second to make that decision. So we do, sky's the limit. Basically, with the IPSC course design, we try not to limit the shooter. We try to give them the best opportunity and let them decide what they want to do and how they'll screw up. It's basically freestyle. If you see a crack here, you could shoot through that crack, as long as it's not, just a mistake and they didn't cover it up. Sky's the limit. The only time that we will limit you is how you start the stage, where if your gun's loaded and holstered, or if your gun's unloaded, so it forces you to load, or if your gun is started on a table. So the start of the course of fire limit changes. We will sometimes force you to sit down on a chair before you start. So it's all stuff to basically, work on confusing you. And it doesn't take much. I've been taught many times myself.
Yes.
I've seen around there's IPSC shotgun. Has that been catching on yet? Because it looks quite interesting.
IPSC shotgun down east is starting to get popular, and Western provinces are usually about 2 years behind them. So when they started PCC, we were looking at it and we're going, no, we don't want that. But then once we started shooting it, we loved it. IPSC shotgun is starting to trickle into this part of the country.
And do you need a black badge to shoot IPSC shotgun, or
in Canada, anything that has IPSC on it requires a black badge.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there a specific course for shotgun?
We haven't gotten one yet.
Yes.
That's how new it is.
Okay.
In the US, you could go shoot shotgun out there. If Calgary, they have a big USPSA contingent, and they do shotgun there. And because it's not under IPSC, they could do it without taking a black badge.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's what is starting to happen right now is in the Calgary and the BTS area, they're starting to do, IPSC style shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
That and PCC not so much, but that and pistol definitely piqued my interest to want to go shoot IPSC.
Oh yeah, and like I said earlier, 3-gun is starting to do 2-gun now, whereas they're not doing the rifle, but they're doing the pistol and the shotgun.
Mm-hmm.
So IPSC Nationals, those are getting hosted in Alberta this year. That is correct?
Yes, IPSC Nationals will be hosted in Taber, Alberta. Our pre-match will start as early as, I think, July 30th and 31st. And then the main match goes from August 1st to 3rd and stuff like that. We're going to have some of the top shooters all over Canada here. I think our pre-match has 55 people registered already. That's for all the sponsors, all the officials, and everybody, because the officials will be the ones that work the main match the whole week.
Yeah.
And then the main match, we have the teams come out. Every province has the opportunity to send their own 4-person team for basically bragging rights.
Yep.
And it's always been between Alberta and Ontario for the wins of the teams.
Where have I heard that before?
Yeah. We have some of the top teams around. We've had some of the match winners in Alberta. Taylor Reich was one person ever to win a national level competition without an open gun. He was the first guy to ever do it, and he did it last year. The next person was Corey Lorson with an open gun. So it proves that you can win with anything you have. You just got to dedicate yourself to it.
Yeah.
Skill
speaks loudly.
Yeah. In the main match right now, we have, I think, 360 competitors signed up already. We have an opportunity to have up to 450.
Oh, wow.
We just opened up the open registration for the 80 spots extra for anybody in Canada that wants to come out and shoot. And as long as they're black badge certified and a member of good standing of their section, they can sign up to shoot it.
So if you just got your black badge, that could be your first match.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be quite the baptism.
2 years ago, one of my students, I had a helper, and his wife was the student in my class. She took the class, and her first match was the IPSC Nationals in Selkirk. First ever match. Her husband was going there already as a member of the CCFR contingent because he was shooting under the CCFR banner. And because she was going and she was black badge certified, Alberta offered her a spot to go. And she took it and she shot it. So, it means nothing. It's all mental.
Yeah.
Don't let it bother you and you'll do fine. And she did fine. She survived, and now she's got so much confidence. My first match ever was shooting the Alberta Provincials a week after I got my black badge. So it's open to all skill levels.
Now the match itself, like nationals matches, are all the stops pulled out? Is it a more intense match, or is it just a little bit above average, and it's just the competition that raises the bar?
It's basically above average. It's a level 3 match, which level 3 match means it's got to be, a 2-day match with a minimum of 12 stages. And what happens is it will have 19 stages because we're pulling out the stops there. Taylor and Jeff Chang are our match designers. And knowing them, they're two really good shooters. So it's going to be a lot, fast and challenging. So it'll be a good balance for everybody. Yeah.
And Tabor is a fantastic facility too to host at.
Yes.
I'd argue that's one of the nicest ranges in Alberta.
It is. The only issue that I'm personally concerned about is the wind, because the Tabor range gets a little dusty and the dust is very, very fine out there.
Yes.
And this will be in August.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so that's my own personal fear about that. I shoot an open gun, so a little dust in it causes havoc.
Yes.
Our provincials that are happening at the end of June is in Fort McMurray. That's one of the nicest ranges I've ever seen too. So that will be a fun match.
Should be less wind, less dust.
more trees.
Yes,
Well,
more trees.
You get the sand fleas out there that bite you though.
Ooh,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, added mental challenge.
I've learned not to wear shorts.
Yes.
I always thought that was a mandatory thing in IPSC is you had to wear shorts.
Oh, are we going to go there now?
I think we have to.
It's not mandatory. The only thing mandatory that we don't want is political statements and military style clothing. Other than that, you're allowed to dress however you want. We just worry about all it takes is one person, the wrong person being interviewed by a news station or something, and they see them in full military garb and stuff like that. We do allow police and law enforcement, but they have to be wearing their full gear to do it. So that's the only exception, but we haven't had too many of them lately.
Yeah. I heard an interesting story from it was a guy I know in Yellowknife, the IPSC shooter there, and he actually had a RCMP officer join them for a match, and not only the officer requested from his superior to join and compete the match, but he said that he had to follow RCMP shooting protocol. And so with that, during a reload, the RCMP protocol is to present a small stature. So every reload, he would kneel down and kind of ball up in order to, present a smaller, target should he actually get in a real use situation. So the guy I was talking to who was RRing the match, right up behind him, all of a sudden he was very, very surprised that all of a sudden in the middle of the match, the shooter just kneeled down to reload.
So getting to 2 nationals, is it something that anybody can sign up? But then you mentioned the teams. How does a team work? Like, how do you get on the team?
Okay, well, getting on the teams, basically we track everything. Like under practice score, we have a specific group of people that actually do all the scores, combine them all, do spreadsheets and everything. Our teams, we allow up to 6 qualifiers, which we will get 10% like an exam, right? When you go into school, your exams, the short exams are smaller, and then you get the final, which is worth more. Our qualifiers, when you shoot 6 qualifiers, we take your 10 best scores. The way that scoring goes is in your division, they will work out your percentage. And from that, we take the 10 best scores. You have, 6 best scores that will allow you to have 60% of your overall provincial standing score. Then when you shoot the provincials, it's worth 40% of the match. So then when we work it out, we pick our teams by the top to bottom, the top 4, and then number 5 will be the alternate, and so on. Usually we try to send the first top 10 of every division. If someone can't go, then we send the next ones, and so on. We will, as IPSC Alberta, we will pay for the entry for the top 4, so they don't even have to worry about that.
Oh, that's
So,
nice.
it's kind of like for you, it's a thank you for you putting in the time in.
Yeah.
And then every division will have a go team. So every province, not everybody sends a go team in every division. Some provinces can't fill them, but like Ontario, BC, and Alberta, we have enough that we could fill quite easily.
Mm.
So, but they do, it's all for bragging rights in the long run, to see who has the top shooters. We have the top shooters in production, open. We won standard. We've won classic. So we have some top shooters. And the biggest thing is your physical attributes and your age don't actually come into play at all. It's all experience.
Mm.
So how's the situation with the community in Canada being our situation, how it is? Are people saying, well, if they ban one thing, we go to the next thing, or how's the community kind of been reacting to it all?
So far with handguns, it hasn't been an issue. Okay. But as you know, that could change overnight, very easy. With the PCC, once people are very dynamic in their choices. With PCC, once they got certain rifles banned, we worked it out and found rifles like Sterling, like Melody and Taylor are sponsored by Sterling. They were shooting with their Sterlings all summer before they go. They just headed out to Czech Republic Wednesday, go shoot in the World Shoot.
Yep.
Right now, as far as I know, IPSC Canada arranged to get our teams for PCC out there. Who was it? Da Vinci Arms in the US. They managed to get them rifles out there for them to use for the World Shoot.
Yeah, because they weren't able to do the paperwork in time. I think it was the thing to get the rifles to the Czech Republic. So
yeah, and because Taylor couldn't take his Raven and a few other people, I'm hoping that everything goes well with them, because right now they should be landing out in the Czech Republic, if not already there. So they're probably either freaking out because the rifles haven't gotten there yet, or they're already sending rounds downrange so that they get used to it.
Yeah, because they're gonna have to reclimatize to what they're competing with. So they're at quite the disadvantage in that regard, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's very unfortunate, but we're very resilient. When the time comes, we always find a way. It's just like with the handguns. We found not a loophole, but an actual workaround where we can lend people guns indefinitely so that they could shoot in our sport. There are certain ranges that are actually purchasing guns so that they could use them. So, we found various ways to do it. Myself as P3, because I'm a business license holder, I could do the same thing.
Yes.
And it makes it quite easy, for that type of stuff. So we do know how to work around things. And the biggest thing is we do have our CFO support.
Yeah, that's huge. Shout out to Terry Bryan.
Oh, she's an amazing person.
Yes.
So how do you get to, I mean, this will be a question for Taylor, but you're here. So how do you get to that international level? Like, what is the hoop to jump through to get into that?
What happens is you have to have a national ranking, but therefore you have to shoot a minimum of 2 nationals. Once you get a national ranking, then you're on the list. What happens is, I think they gave us 44 spots for IPSC Canada to shoot the World Shoot. So we went from the top of the list down. So basically whoever was the top, i.e. Taylor, which is our team captain, and then they worked their way down eventually. His fiancée, Melody, actually didn't even have a spot for the nationals because the 44 people were already chosen. But we were able to get her spot. So now she's going to go out there as one of the top women shooters out there with the PCC. So there's a very good chance that we will bring back some hardware.
That would be awesome.
That's always good to hear.
Yep. So, but yeah, they limit it. There's certain little hoops that you gotta follow. It's just like anything, like the Olympics. You have to go through, the Olympic trials and everything before you qualify to a certain level, and then they decide on the team.
And IPSC as a whole, like say you're traveling to another country, do they help with, importing or forms or anything like that? Because these bounce around all over the world to my understanding.
Yeah.
The worlds.
They do require that. For someone like me that wants to shoot a match in Asia, I have to get one from our regional director, a letter that states that I'm a member of good standing, I'm safe, I'm whatever, and then send it out to their regional director or match directors for them to review it. And then after they finish reviewing it, they will send us an invitation letter if they want to let us shoot it. It doesn't matter. There are a lot of matches all over the world that don't require you to be in the top 5.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot that if you want to show up, as long as you jump through the hoops, getting the permits, getting the paperwork to bring your firearm into the country, that's the biggest key. If you, like a lot of our guys right now, for the nationals, IPSC handgun, not the nationals, IPSC handgun world shoot, I know a lot of people are avoiding going through Heathrow Airport because they don't allow firearms through it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going through Frankfurt instead. So there are, little logistic stuff that we have to be aware of when we book our flights and everything.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest things too is, do you bring your own ammo or do you use match ammo, which is ammo you've never used before?
Yes.
We are allowed 5 kilograms of ammunition per person on a flight. So if you're going up by yourself, 5 kilograms is just over 400 rounds.
Mm.
That's not enough to shoot a world shoot.
Yeah, no.
If you happen to have your wife going with you, then you got 10 kilograms between the two of you. So that helps. So it's all those little things that you got to be concerned about when you go international.
On the subject of reloading, are a lot of people using factory ammo, or is reloading the main thing that people are doing?
A lot of people reload. As with PRS and anything else, reloading gives you the option to get better ammo, to tune it to your gun, to whichever. You get guys like Taylor, that is sponsored by FH Munition. I know the owners of that company quite well. They do great ammunition for 9mm. The Bullet Shop in Brooks also does great ammunition. Both companies will be our match ammo for our nationals. The Bullet Shop does different calibers also, 9mm and 40, and they also do different weighted bullets. Whereas FH Munition does only 9mm and a 124 grain bullet. So it makes a big difference.
And the 124, is that kind of like the gold standard of 9mm, or?
To some of the top shooters, it is. Taylor swears by it because he loves how fast it cycles his gun. He's faster than his cycling of his gun. For other shooters, they go to a heavier bullet so that the gun is smoother and they don't have such a tight grip on it. Like Taylor's got a gorilla grip on his gun. If he holds it down, it holds the recoil and muzzle flip quite well. You get other people that don't have that grip, so they go to a heavier bullet that doesn't have as much muzzle flip and stuff. But the gun also, you lose out when it goes a little slower.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of people are switching to 124s lately.
Is there a power factor at all in IPSC or anything to that level?
Yes. With IPSC, with production or any of those standards, you have to have a minimum 125 power factor, which is basically the weight of the bullet times the speed divided by 1,000. So it has to be at least 125. With other things, like you get open guns, we have a choice of major and minor. So it could be, if you want to shoot minor, you could do it at 125. If you want to shoot major, it's over 160. If you want to shoot standard and want to shoot major, which you're allowed, or classic, then you have to have a 175. So the reason why they have the open guns with less is because back in the day, we used to experiment with everything, and a lot of people blow up their guns back then. And we still do. Good. So, it's that type of stuff. So that's why, like I said, it all comes down to safety again.
Yeah.
Yep.
And 1911, 2011 are obviously the most popular.
For standard and classic and open, for anything else, you're looking at CZ Shadow 2s, Shadow 1s, Luigo Aliens, and now I've been seeing a whole different group of guns coming out because new shooters are coming out with like Jerichos, MMPs. They're doing a lot of different firearms now because they're shooting with what they have.
Mm. Yeah, that's the another question I was getting to. Obviously, there's our access is not the same as it was, so it's a lot of shoot what you have.
Yeah.
Has there been any issues with that? Are guys able to keep parts and wear components up to keep their guns running?
Most of the parts we could find in Canada still.
Yeah.
We have major companies like Double Tap Sports that bring in parts and everything. Freedom Ventures for 1911, 2011s. Walter at WC Sales that brings in a lot of CZ parts. A-Zone that brings in a lot of CZ parts. Myself, I bring in whatever's needed. I'm one of the few smaller companies that have an import license and export license from companies in the US. So I could bring in lots of different stuff that most people don't bring in.
Yeah.
We could bring in slides, barrels, everything like that.
So just as long as you don't have a frame problem, you're good to go.
Yes.
So
what if you do have a frame problem? You're essentially hooped at this point, though, correct?
Not really. Unless you get a squib or something that causes the frame to bulge. The only part that's regulated is the part with the serial number on it. So on a Glock, you're kind of in trouble. Okay. But sometimes Glock will warranty it and basically give you another firearm with the same serial number.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You get something like the SIG P320 that has the serial number on the fire control group. So you could basically change everything on it, short of the serial number. So there are.
Do you really want a SIG P320 though?
It's become one of the more popular firearms used in production. Yes. I actually own 2 of them myself. And the P320 X5 is an amazing firearm to use. Even though the Shadow 2 dominates the production optics right now.
Yeah, the 320's kind of gotten a bad rap for going off when it's not supposed to. SIG didn't help it by saying it ends now. I don't think that was a smart move on their part because the internet kind of took that and ran with it.
But overall, like I said, we've seen different guns. I've seen Walthers. I've seen, Jerichos. I've seen, everything out there. Gershons. I've seen Canucks. I've seen a lot of different firearms used in courses that, they seem to work well. So, as long as they work, who cares?
Yeah, we're not in a time to be picky. We're just glad that people are shooting again.
Yes.
So let's
go ahead, Derek.
Let's get into unless you have something on the training competition side. I was going to move into the business side.
Yeah.
With Ken.
Go ahead.
Okay. So speaking of parts and components and reloading, tell us about your business.
Okay, well, my business, like I said earlier, I started it to basically help myself and a few people around me to shoot cheaply but in actuality, it's not shooting cheaply. It just allows you to shoot more.
Yes.
And stuff like that. And then I had people asking me, I need this part or I need that part. Can you do it? And I started sourcing out my old contacts, and I started working with them. And every 6 months, I bring in a big shipment of like barrels, slides, safeties. I bring in a lot of stuff that people needed. And the biggest thing they don't understand is the cost of bringing it into Canada is not as cheap as they think it is. But I've been able to bring in a lot of parts, like a lot of barrels and slides that have been coming in. People are converting their standard guns, 2011s, into open guns because, everybody eventually goes to that division because they just want the challenge.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Everyone wants the sports car.
But the biggest thing is, we get these guys with an old 1911 now. It's an old government model. What can I do with it? Then I help guide them to where the gunsmiths are. We have a lot of gunsmiths. We got one or two in Alberta that are very, very good for IPSC. We have Josco out in Markham that is one of our godfathers of, IPSC. So we get, it's a good way to guide people. When you don't know where to go, then you send it to someone, and then they end up don't doing the job that you really need.
Yeah, and gunsmiths all have their own specialties. Like I know we got a number of them, like EM precision rifles. You want a precision rifle build? There you go. You want an old shotgun tuned up? Oscar at Ribstone Gunsmithing's your man.
Yeah,
and it's nice to have a good community and understanding of the different talents of gunsmiths out there. So the more knowledge in that world, the better.
And a lot of the gunsmiths that we use in our sport are IPSC competitors, so they know what is expected.
It's just good to get the names of people out to other people too, because I'm of the opinion the Canadian gun community, as much as I love them, communicates by telegraph when there's anything that's sort of happening or needs to know about. You could go for, and this has happened to me. Oh, what are they doing? I've never seen that happen before. And like that club's been doing that for 20 years, and they could be down the road and have no idea it exists.
Oh yeah. Unfortunately, that's the biggest thing, right? With the government, it's always been divide and conquer. And that's one of the reasons why we don't communicate as well as we could. But that's why you guys are out here for, to help teach everybody, show everybody things. That's what our gun lobby groups are for, right? They help, contribute and tell us where everything is.
I'm of the opinion we need to get more casual owners or hunters into some sort of competition or something that they can get together. Do you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. But the unfortunate thing is they can't do nothing about it right now. You get the casual hunter that wants to do it. They have their restricted license, but they can't buy anything. I have a student right now asking me, she's got a restricted PAL, but she doesn't have a gun. And she was asking if we could rent guns and stuff like that. Unfortunately, for a course and you've never handled a gun, it's too high of a liability for most instructors. And it's tough. I have a friend of mine that's part of an airsoft community. And they do a lot of the stuff that we do. He sat in through with my black badge class. He became black badge certified. I let him borrow one of my firearms, which is identical to one of his airsoft, so I didn't question it.
Yeah.
And he's come out and he's shot amazingly so far. I feel bad because he's already beaten me a few times. And but the thing is it's an airsoft community. And then he talks with his people. Some people actually own real guns and stuff, but they've never done it. And now they're switching to try it, instead of using airsoft, they're trying it with actual firearms. And they're just loving it just as much.
Is there some crossover going the other way, saying IPSC people buying airsoft pistols for dry fire? Is that happening at all? Or
Oh yeah, we have lots of people doing it. Myself personally, I initially did it, and with the airsoft, you could pin the magazine that you don't need to have a pellet in there, and the gun will cycle. So drawing and firing and it cycling is, works on your sight acquisition and stuff like that. So a lot of people do buy airsoft to train with.
I know I personally have a BB Glock, and it has the blowback on it, and it actually feels pretty damn close. I mean, it's not this recoil's not the same, but again, if you're just working on some fundamentals, it is an available option. And set up a sheet of plywood in the garage, and it's good to go.
Years ago, I was at the SHOT Show, and one of the things they showed off was a magazine that you could put into a striker fire gun, like a Glock or a P320 or an M&P, and it would cycle the striker for you.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't cycle the slide, but it cycled the striker on your competition gun so that you worked with the trigger you had.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's nice to have products like that, especially when the price of ammunition is just a lot.
Yeah. But the biggest thing we tell everybody, one of the things I got taught by a lot of top shooters is dry fire maybe like every second day for about 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's, half the battle is getting sight acquisition. The next part of it is let the gun run. If you let the gun run, it will go back to its starting point almost every time, and it's quicker.
Mm-hmm.
So for reloading, we're gonna go with 9mm. I'm gonna get a progressive press. What should I be looking for to load on volume? Because I don't really load for volume. I run a single stage right now.
Yeah, for your rifle, of course. You have many choices. I personally use the Hornady lock and load AP. The way it's set up, I could load 1 round per crank, and I could probably get about 1,200 rounds an hour.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
That's pretty good.
We got offered a Dillon 550 for the Nationals, part of our prize table. It's not a fully progressive, but it's a self-indexing where you have to use your finger to turn it. That will probably run you about 800 rounds an hour.
Mm-hmm.
The next step up is like the standard, the 650, 750. It'll come with a bullet feed and brass feeder, and you could probably get about 1,300 rounds an hour with them. So you're looking at a cost of anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 for those 3 presses.
Have you looked at the Frankfurt Arsenal press, that X10 that they brought out? I really want one. I just haven't found anyone that has one in stock.
I've seen them. If you need something like that, you just need to order it in. There are a couple companies throughout Canada that will order it in. They're just so far behind right now building their presses, and they're going to the US before they go to us.
Yeah. Because I got to fondle one a shot, and I'm like, this is really nice. It looks good as much as that counts for nothing. It looks like a really nice press.
Yeah. Hey, if your reloading bench looks good, it's a good time.
You're doing something right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I've got a reloading room that has 4 presses in it, plus my single stage and a swager.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just lazy. I don't want to change my calibers when I'm going to different ones. So I just bought the extra presses and have them set up permanently.
I understand.
Yeah.
Is there much trimming on 9mm brass? Because I hate trimming with a passion.
Almost never.
Oh, really?
The only thing that you need to really worry about is the primer pockets. If you end up using military brass or brands like Winchester or S&B, because they have a tighter primer pockets. But once you swage properly, it will work. Most of the time, if you have a hard primer, like the Gen X, the Winchester, CCI, you can force it. You put a Federal on there, you're going to flatten it.
Yeah.
And with some of them harder primers, is there an issue with light strikes, or Or most of the guns pretty dialed in?
Though with my gun, I run a 17.5 pound spring. It has a hammer fire, so you know it's going to hit hard. I've never had a misfire. My friend CZ that I've tuned and I keep here run a 13-pound mainspring on a CZ Shadow 2. Not a problem at all. You start having problems when you go down to about 11.5. Mm-hmm. And then even go down to that after a year and it starts compressing a bit, then it gets worse. We found no difference using 11.5 or 13. So I just leave it 13, but then you get these competitors that want to get every ounce out of their gun. Mm-hmm. I know top shooters.
Got a tune.
Our Alberta top production shooter, he was just talking to me earlier today. He runs a 17-pound mainspring in his Tangfolio. So what does that say? You know, he has no problem. So to me, I don't think it really makes a big difference. Mm-hmm. But when it all comes down to it, you have to make sure your gun is reliable. You have to make sure your ammo is reliable, right? After that, then you don't have to worry about anything. Then it's all mental and stage planning. Mm-hmm. We have a process that we go through that we have chamber checkers that will hold 100 rounds, that we could pop 100 rounds of our match ammo in there. And then you can look for upside down primers, you know, high primers, etc. And then that, you know, you pull those out, and that this way takes any chance of malfunction of any type that you could avoid out of the picture. Yeah. So
we got Yuka Kazi chiming in. I'm like a few times per week with my pellet rifle. Don't want to get rusty. CO2 and pellets are super cheap too. And the bow now too.
No, I have a couple of airsoft Glocks and they're just so much fun to shoot. That's where I want to go. With if I'm going to jump into this, would you recommend going to iron sights or would you recommend going to optics division?
I always recommend irons first. You have to learn to shoot irons before you learn to shoot optics. There are two thought process about sights. You need to have iron sights. You have the option to use target focus and front sight focus. The explanation of that is basically front sight focus is when you need to do a more accurate shot and you have to know where your sights are. Whereas you got target focus, it's just a blur. Mm-hmm. You know, something close, you just point and shoot and you're looking at the target. When you shoot optics, it's only target focus.
That would make it faster or more accurate if you're just target focused.
Yeah, target focus is faster.
Okay.
Front sight focus is much more accurate. We do a method of training, and so I know some competitors that shoot this way with optics. Is there's an Oculus method, it's called, where we put black tape or a hood over the front of the optic, so you don't see through it, and all you do is see a little red dot on a black screen. And what happens that is when you have two eyes open, which is the proper way to shoot optics, you just look at the target and the dot will come up and it will focus on there quite easily.
I think there was an old aim point that was set up like that, like one of the very, very first ones. It was, you couldn't see through it; it just projected the dot, and then your brain figured it out.
Yeah, as long as you use two eyes open, that method works amazing. I know a couple of top shooters that actually shoot that way at a match.
Oh, interesting.
I'm learning so much right now because I don't do this, so I have like a list of questions, then we keep jumping from one to another. This is good.
That's basically what I'm here for, right?
Yeah.
So what is the main products of your business?
Main products of our business is anything reloading. I use Campro projectiles. I'm probably one of their biggest retail stores, basically, for them in Western Canada. My latest order is probably about 150,000 projectiles that are going to be shipped out to me in the next week or so. Those 150.
So like a pallet.
Yeah, it comes in 2 pallets.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and luckily because I buy over 80,000, they pay the shipping.
Nice.
So
nice.
out of the
Yeah.
150,000, I probably got 140,000 already pre-sold.
Mm-hmm.
We bring in powder by the pallet because we can't use Canpar to deliver or Loomis to deliver anymore. So we bring it to us via truck. And same thing with primers because we have to, because of safety regulations that they have to follow. But basically, we do a lot of reloading product.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What on the powder side? What powders are you selling?
Basically it's the bread and butter ones, Tight Group, 231, Winchester 231, Vivatori, N320, N310, N350. We will bring in, if its timing is right, I'll bring in especially rifle products. If I have someone that wanting, certain rifle product powders and such.
Has there been a struggle finding certain powders, or has that powder situation kind of got better on the pistol side?
Powder has gotten pretty good lately. We've never really had a problem because the Vivatori powders came from Europe. It was just waiting for the ship to bring it into Nova Scotia to our distributors and such. Primers was an issue for quite a long time. It still is a little bit right now because you see large rifle primers and large rifle magnum primers going for about $200 a brick, which I find outrageous. I was at a gun show and I was selling mine at I think 120 a brick, and the guys that came down from Fort Mac just shocked when they saw that. Other than that, projectiles, they come from Quebec, so that's not an issue there at all.
Mm-hmm.
So the tariffs haven't been super hard on you?
No, not yet. Like I said, the powder, the only ones is the Hodgins and Winchester, which is scary because the fact that they actually go from Canada in bulk to the U.S. to be repackaged, to be resold to us. So it's just like our gas.
So it's actually most powders manufactured here is what you're saying?
Yes.
Really?
I'm pretty sure it's dependent on the powder. Like I know Varget comes out of Australia.
Yeah, you get certain ones.
Yeah.
Like I said, the Vivatori powders, because they come from Europe, tariffs don't affect us. Our bullets are local, basically Quebec, and the only thing is the primers. And there's been, because of the shortage, there's been a few new, at least one new primer company that opened up that came out. I haven't used them yet because their price is at a premium right now, as the same as Federals. And if I have a choice to sell one or the other, I'll sell the brand name.
Because I know for the rifle side, like there's some stuff I still can't find.
Well, send me an email. You'll be surprised.
My poor 300 hasn't been used because I don't want to use the few little pounds of Rotumbo I have left.
Yeah.
So for parts, you cover like optics and everything else as well.
Yes, we do.
Right? What's some of the brands that you're dealing with?
I basically try to stick with 3 main ones. SIG for their 3XL, 3 Max series. Hollow Sun for their 507, 510 series. And Apex for their Fusions. I try to stick with all 3 companies because all 3 have impeccable warranties, limited lifetime warranties. With Hollow Sun, we actually had a freak accident with one of their optics. Last summer, we had a gentleman shoot and his optic fell off and flew up into the sky, and his second shot the optic.
No way.
A freak one. I have a video, a picture of it. Wish we would have had a video.
Yeah.
A friend of mine, which is also my co-instructor, Nick Hoffmeyer, he found it. He kind of came to me jokingly, "You think Hollow Sun will warranty this?" I looked at it, took a few pictures, sent it to my contact at Hollow Sun. He looked at it. He goes, "We'll cover it." So, as long as it doesn't happen to the same guy 5 times in a row, right?
Yes, that might answer some questions.
Yeah, and he's replaced it, no questions asked. SIG has replaced SIG 3XL, where a guy dropped his gun during practice and landed on the optic, flattened the optic, and they gave him a brand new one.
Yeah.
And I've already talked to Van and Carly about their fusions, which I love because I've got a few of them already. And we were talking about that. I go, will you cover that under warranty? And I go, if I all of a sudden, you start using it as a hammer. He goes, yeah, we will. You may be stupid to do that, but we will do it for you for the first time or two. So that's why I swear by all 3 companies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Van and Carly, you're great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Check out the Atom and Fusion red dots at apexoptics.co.
Shameless plug.
Or from Ken at P3 Shooting Specialties.
Oh, yeah. I love their optic. My open gun carries 3XL right now on it. The only reason it hasn't been changed to a Fusion yet is because I have to change the scope mount because it doesn't have the same footprint for it. Once I get that and get it Cerakoted to match my current gun, it'll have a Fusion on there.
Yeah, you don't want to have a conflicting paint scheme.
No. It's got to look good.
It's got to look sexy and shoot sexy.
There comes back to the IPSC match. You'll probably do 2 minutes of shooting over 2 days. But the rest of the time, the gun's in the holster. So it's got to look good.
Yeah.
Is RMR kind of still the gold standard for optics, or I think there's like Shield and RMSC and
the Trigicons were in the top, probably the top 5. They were probably like the number 2 optic used by competitors. Basically, they used was the Trigicon SRO. They were very popular for a long time until these other optics now have come back, and basically beat them out on price, availability, and everything else. And we're also getting into optics that have different colors now. Like with the Fusion, there's 6 different reticles on it. On my PCC, I loved it because if I had to take a long range shot, I would change it to a different one for that stage specifically. Other than that, I would run their 12.5-minute dot on my pistol. So, each one has its own little benefits.
So footprint, the optic plates, it's not really, it's more about what the actual optic does as opposed to the plate you can find for it. Yeah,
it is. A lot of times right now, you could get outer impact optic, scope mounts and plates that are universal. So they have all the holes drilled out, all the M3, M4 threading, has the pins to put in different spots for all the different optics now. So the mounts and everything have caught up to the optics.
Okay, that's good because I went down that rabbit hole one day and I'm like, what is mounting to what? And this is a little bit confusing for the guy that's not been in it. So
are those Seymour optics still popular, or have they pretty much been retired?
The old Seymour Railways, the plastic ones, I've had them forever. I even have one of my guns actually still has one on it. That's my backup. The new Seymours, the RTS2s and RTS3s are coming out. The RTS2 is a very good optic. It has been used for quite some time. I have one of them for my production gun. The new ones are the RTS3, which is basically a bigger window and everything, just like the Vortex Defenders. Everybody's getting into bigger windows, bigger dots, because they're finding out that IPSC competitors spend money on their equipment. The plinkers don't want to spend $800 on an optic. They want to spend $300 buying a Vortex Venom, and they're happy. Whereas us, we don't blink an eye spending $1,000 for an optic on an $8,000 gun.
Yeah.
So
Because when I think IPSC, I think like the Seymour on the front rail mount. Like that is to me the quintessential IPSC gun in my mind from my limited knowledge.
That is 20-year-old technology. I don't know how many times Taylor Reich has come up to me and goes, Ken, when are you going to get a new optic for that gun? I go, why would I? It's older than you right now.
And it still works.
Yeah, it still works. So, but like I said, my newest gun has a micro dot optic on it. So, for backup, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, Derek, do you have anything else for Ken?
You got any N110?
I don't have any N110 right now, but I could probably get some for you.
Okay. we might talk after then.
Oh yeah.
So
yes, we're coming around the hour and a half mark, and all my questions have been answered, which has been great.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Derek. You were gonna say.
Is there anything you want to tell the listeners in regards to IPSC, the world of shooting sports, your business, all three?
I think we pretty much covered a lot. The only plug I'd probably do for sure is we have open registration for the Nationals. There's probably only about 80 spots available, and I know about 15 that have already been taken up. This is a chance to shoot at pretty much the highest level in Canada. So it will be a fun match. I would love to see you guys come out just to take a video or something, just for the day. And I'll give you guys the intros to everybody involved and stuff like that. We've got an extensive prize table. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to distribute it, because we don't just want to give the top 10 shooters the best prizes. I want everybody to be able to draw and get something decent.
Yeah, come on with something nice.
Yep.
So awesome. Well, thank you, Ken, very much for your time explaining us, delving into the world of Black Badge, IPSC, and P3 shooting supplies. I will pull up. Oh, hold on a second here. We'll just do some closing comments. A quick social plug. Check us out on the show at facebook.com/BS podcast and leave a review to let us know how we're doing. If you like the content, please give a like on the page and share. Also, if you have any questions, email us at info@bspodcast.ca, or you can email just us and Mike at banyak@bspodcast.ca. Massive thank you to all our sponsors. With you, we wouldn't have a show here in the first place. We're talking Shane and Steve with EM Precision Rifles, Miles, Carey, and Cappy with Call Sign 66, Duncan and Rob at Bolt Action Coffee, Phil Odell at Odell Engineering, Doug and Niza with March Scopes Canada, Vanya and Carly with Apex Optics, Oscar with Ribstone Gunsmithing, and J.R. Cox with Sterling Arms International. Thank you all an immeasurable amount. And again, thank you to Ken at P3 Shooting Supplies for joining us today. And with that, goodbye.
Because I have a shotgun and rifle that I use for, and 22 gauge that I use for ptarmigan, moose, and black bear.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
You're listening to your weekly dose of BS, ballistically speaking. The Ballistically Speaking Podcast.